Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
She's helping save the environment, the universe, one plastic container at a time. And that all starts with what she puts into these plastic and other containers. And that is great products for your home, you personally, cleaning, all of that. They're biodegradable, they're safe products, and she makes them with love. Aspire Colorado is the company. And we're going to talk about those containers. Oh my gosh, what's clogging up landfills and ruining our environment? Julie Smith is back with us. Welcome, Julie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Steve?
Very well. And
Good.
we've skimmed a couple of different things in terms of packaging, things that are sent
hmm
out. Of course, the Amazon footprint now. Whoa. But single-use containers, something that's big on your radar in terms of saving the environment. Why is that so important?
Well, really, just we all know about the clogging up of the landfills. We know about the plastic, microplastics getting into our water systems, which everything gets washed downhill if it ends up on the ground, right? And gets broken up, and then it ends up in the ocean where it's killing aquatic wildlife. A baby fish that eats plastic off of a mat. It's the plastic can clog its entire digestive system, the fish fry, and we're losing fish that way that don't even ever get to be full grown. And so it's really bad. We've seen pictures on the internet. You can Google pictures of a dead bird and open it up and see all this plastic in their stomach and wonder how they lived. And it's even in us. And it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere in the environment, and all of us humans at this point, pretty much all have some plastic in our systems, and who knows what that's doing to us. And then, meanwhile, we have the plastics are petroleum products, so the oil industry really wants to stay in business, and so they're trying to convince us that all plastic is infinitely recyclable, and that's true to a point. But we've just gone nuts on all of this. At this point now, okay, we've got all that, but then if we look upstream, all this plastic had to get made somewhere along with any container, anything that we have. It's all made someplace. So if we look at that very closely, I actually did the math and summed it all up. And if we look at all aspects, just the carbon footprint is of the manufacturing is alone is 8.5% of all of our single use containers, which is, to me, that's I mean, that's a lot. We have an obscene carbon footprint in the United States that is 4 times the global average. And, at least 8.5% of that is nothing but making single-use containers that we're going to throw away after we use them. And by the way, after we use the product that's inside. And by the way, we're paying for those containers. We're paying a lot for our products because of those containers. And we're just used to it. It's just absolutely incredible. Now let's look at like aluminum and metal, for instance. If we have a tin container or an aluminum container, those aren't benign. Those are extremely energy intensive processes to make. For aluminum, for instance, you take bauxite ore, you dig it out of the ground, it's mined, and then you have to go through an extremely intensive electricity intensive electrolysis process to get the aluminum isolated from the ore. And that's before you ever even melt it down. Now, just the melting of the aluminum is 1/20th the energy of the entire process. That's why when we recycle aluminum containers and remelt them into more aluminum cans, we're literally saving 95% of the energy. And that now, so we get to that. Glass is the same way. It's at least half. Glass is made by melting sand, limestone, and soda ash. Okay, imagine the temperatures, 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit to melt all that. And then plus you had to mine it, you had to huck it all the way from the mine to the glass plant, la 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 la. So just huge energy savings by keeping those things in the loop, land savings. Look at our mines. Total mines, just in the U.S. alone, 1.5 million acres. If we assume about half of the mined metal is going for single-use containers, probably in the ballpark. Now we're at almost a million acres just in mines. As land that we've taken from our wildlife. That is land that nothing grows on. By the way, if we leave the land alone, even if we're helping our wildlife, but also forests are a huge sink for CO2. So they take up CO2 that we emit up to a point. And right now, our total land that we're trashing for mining, and then also scraping trees for paper, which is another subject that's taken up about 2.5% of our carbon footprint. So it puts us at over 10%. When you add that to the 8%, it puts us over 10% in just for single-use containers. Now, is that insane? Does that seem insane? That's why. That is why.
Even when you started with the plastic, in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of documentaries where they show you the ocean, and especially in other countries, and how much plastic, tiny, minuscule particles are just floating within that water in the ocean. When we talk about aluminum, so like aluminum foil, tin foil, all of that, bad thing is what I'm getting from you because of what it takes to produce it. Is that correct?
Yep. At least we need to, we have plastic, and then we have aluminum containers and glass containers. You have to put it in something. At least reuse it, refill it. Don't keep making more of this stuff. They are really wonderful containers, and you can use them forever. So why would we not do that?
So, in your advice to everybody is, if you're not going to reuse it, don't even use it. Don't even think about it. And I'm looking over to the side here, and this is the example. So last night I had leftovers from a Mexican place. Here's a plastic plate. They supplied it, right? So I guess I could reuse it, but it is quite thin. And we have a cup of coffee. Now this is cardboard. This is plastic on top. And the reason I brought up the aluminum foil, it's gonna make you unhappy, but this came with the dish. They wrapped this amount of aluminum foil. That's great, kept it fresh, I guess. But what am I going to do with this? I can't really reuse it, right?
Yes, you can. Yeah, show me the other side.
One side is shinier than the other. I don't know if that makes sense. I guess I could flatten it out and get a little bit of use as long as it's not ripped up or anything.
I'm going to say, we need to get over like putting like when we cook things, we tend to like use foil over them. We at our house, we have not bought a roll. We have a roll of foil that's probably over 10 years old since I first said we're not doing this anymore.
Wow.
And we put things like a like-sized plate, say, over a casserole, although a lot of casseroles have lids on them, like that you're going to cook something in the oven, so you don't need to slap foil on it. I reuse those foils infinitely, and I'm pretty careful when I wash them so as not to rip them up. But anything you need foil, you could reuse those until you've trashed them. You can wash them just fine. Just be gentle, and so on. So we have that. We have a drawer where we have our old aluminum foil roll that we actually stick things like that we end up with. Now, stopping it at the door, what we actually do is we have a little reuse or a little take-home kit in our car. And so it's basically, these are old snap tops that restaurants have given us, that we've washed, and then we just put it right back in the car. And if we have something to take home that we're not going to finish, then we just simply use our own containers and we just shovel it right in there. We've never been stopped doing. There's no reason a restaurant would care that we would do that. Beyond that, I ask for, I say, do you have a responsible container that's made of paper? because believe me, I mean, Chinese restaurants have had it right all this time. Those are perfectly recyclable. They are compostable, those paper containers.
Okay.
And and it just annoys me that so many restaurants have gone to the plastic. And then the styrofoam is hopeless. We won't allow styrofoam into our house at all. Food contaminated styrofoam, you're just stuck with it. Basically, what I do is I'll actually rinse it off and stick it in the TerraCycle kitchen box because that'll take anything. But there is no way to recycle in a standard recycling center styrofoam. So that definitely just say no. But there are a lot of ways to get around this, and we just need to think about what we're doing. I know people who keeps glass snap tops that they're made of glass, and then they have those little lids that are plastic, but they snap on there. Those can be used forever. Those are good to put in a car, especially in the summer when it gets really hot. They're not going to melt. Some of those cheap plastic containers in the summertime, they get a little they'll
Right.
get a little deformed. So it's not like the end all, but there are a lot of ways to not do that.
You know,
And then paper is not like the end all either, because single use paper, I mean, that's horrible. I mean, that's okay. I just saw this documentary. It's called The Issue with Tissue, cleverly named, but it's about toilet paper, and it talks about scraping of the Canadian boreal forests. And by the way, that is CO2 uptake, that is wildlife habitat. And we buy in the US, we get our toilet paper and most of our paper and cardboard. It comes from forests mainly in Mexico and Canada. So how much would you imagine we're capable of taking as far as virgin boreal forests?
I wouldn't even know where to start with that number.
Now, guess what? It's 1 million acres a year just in Canada. 1 million acres a year. 1 million acres a year. And that is, I mean, though, that's trees that can no longer take up CO2. That is wildlife we just took so we can wipe our butts. And Scott, there are a couple like Procter and Gamble is still making Scott tissue with 100% virgin. That's the film gets all into that paper. Yet you can buy recycled 100% recycled paper and get away from that. And then in our house, we're kind of down to, I just found out about in the last year, I started using cloth tissues. They're called P-cloths. And they're literally made from used t-shirts. And they're getting to be a thing here. And they're in a couple of stores that My Bulk products are in, like Nude Foods, for instance, in Boulder has them. And they're just cute as all get out. And that eliminates a lot of toilet paper right there. And then when my husband installed a bidet on our toilet, and so he uses even for number two, and I'm not quite there yet. I've got to try that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not even using toilet paper for number two. We've had the same rolls of toilet paper in our bathroom forever because we're going through it so slowly.
My friend installed one as well, and all I can say is great idea. Once you get used to the cold water, that's the surprise. Once you
Yeah,
once you can get over it,
yeah,
it's all good.
yeah.
Back to what you said, couple of things. Is one of the worst things for our environment in terms of packaging, is it styrofoam? Is that really one of the worst things?
Um, I think so in the terms because there's just no way to recycle it or get rid of it. Plus, it
Yeah.
leaches. I mean, if you have anything, it's bad for us. That stuff's horrible. If you get something like hot in a styrofoam clamshell, it's like I wouldn't even want to put that in my body.
Well, it's
Just
so
from a
funny.
health standpoint, but as far as just its sheer volume, and it's just it's just the sheer volume of it. Yeah. And
Yeah,
you cannot get rid of it sustainably.
people on one side,
Really try, like, without buying a TerraCycle box like I do. How many people do that? We need to just get rid of it. And we need to get rid of all plastic as far as I'm concerned. But anyway,
talking
yeah.
plastics,
So, and
give me
something,
a bottle of
what
water.
now?
somebody would have a bottle of water and not leave it in their car because they don't want to drink it after it heats up, right? So
Yep.
you've often heard,
Oh
PB,
yeah.
EPAs. I always get them confused.
BPA.
Thank you. And then you'll have that same person, to your point, Julie, that will heat up something in styrofoam. So now you're changing the properties of the styrofoam that is touching the food that you're going to put in your body, but you're worried about the bottle of water heating up in your car. It's,
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
but the
Yeah.
Chinese
But
food restaurant, I totally agree with you. And I thought about this a little bit more after you just said it. The the paper container is fantastic. If you get a quart of something, a lot of times you get it in a plastic container, which is great to reuse. And I'll use those many, many, many times over. I don't know if you've seen them where it's got a separate lid, but it almost looks like Tupperware. It's usually fairly thicker
hmm
quality plastic, but at least it's not
hmm
single use. You're going to reuse that over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, and we do. And the key to that is don't. I mean, I don't use a dishwasher anyway. I use my dishwasher, as you know, as a drying rack. Uh, but running it at the high temperatures sometimes can melt that. So I do. I hand wash all of that, and that gets to yeah. Anyway, so and then I wanted to like talk about kind of like really seriously looking at what's in our trash just like have you ever looked at your trash? It's a
I
starting point.
Yeah, not super mindful of it, but I will when I get home today.
Yeah, yeah, because it starts with knowing what's in your trash. When I was working at Coors, we took the brewery to the single largest brewery in the world to go zero waste to landfill. And where we started was auditing the trash. We had a day, a trash pickup day, where instead of taking the trash to the north, to the landfill, they took the trash and dumped it under a big, under a large canopy that we had down the valley. And everybody and the managers and the leadership were all required to be there and spend time. And we took shifts and we dug through that trash and we sorted it out and we weighed it to see what we have. And then that gave us a starting point. This is what if you have a baseline, now you know what your goals are if you want to go zero waste to landfill. And in our landfills, we have and that's another thing about landfills, but I'll get into it in a minute, that in our landfills in general, 18.5% plastic, 5% glass, 2% aluminum, 7% metal, 23% cardboard and paper, and 24% food, just in general in a US landfill. Americans throw out 4.4 pounds of trash a day. And when you look at all those things that are every bit of that could be reused, and that's how our household has gone zero waste to landfill ourselves, is by reusing. We compost any food. We don't waste food to begin with, but like peelings and things like that that come off, like an avocado. I haven't figured out what to do with an avocado peel,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
very little or an apple core, so things like that go in there. But everything else gets used, and that's a huge key, and then you end up with some meat bones if you had some meat, and those do not compost in a home composting pile,
Can I
so they
ask a
have to go
question?
to a professional pile.
This was an online debate, and I've actually talked with friends about this over the years. Banana peel. Somebody throws it away. Is it
Uh,
considered littering?
is it considered what?
Littering. Is it littering? You take a banana peel and you just, let's say you throw it on the grass or something.
Oh yes, yeah, our wildlife is not equipped to deal with that, and it's an eyesore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enough.
Uh-uh. No. Orange peel, same thing. Yeah, because a banana peel is something like that too. But we have at home, we have composting, and so we keep that out because our landfills are another big thing. Our
Yeah.
freaking emissions from the landfills are about 14% of our emissions from landfills. Now, what is biodegradable out of all the things that I just listed in a landfill? It's the food we're wasting. We waste a huge fraction of our food in this country. We seem to lack urgency around not wasting food. And so, that's a biggie. And it's funny because I will find things, I pick up things off the street when I'm taking my walks and things like that. And it's amazing how often I'll pick up a can that somebody didn't even finish drinking it. And then and then they couldn't be bothered to, dispose of the can properly. So I take these back, and I'll dump the stuff out, bring it home, and recycle it basically, and get it off the street. But it's amazing to me, people and how much you pay for something like that. I mean, you can pay more for a can of Red Bull than you do for a 4-ounce spray bottle of Aspire deodorant that'll last you for 2 or 3 months, and the Red Bull will be down in 2 seconds. It's absolutely incredible the way that we think or the way that we don't think.
Disposable.
But the main thing in a landfill, the main reason for those emissions is all of our food that we throw away. That's the only that and the paper, but paper has to have nutrients in the form of food to even biodegrade, for anything to ever biodegrade that, meaning the biomass, the microbes that biodegrade all this stuff.
So we have about 2 minutes left. I want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about Aspire and your products. Anything left on the list that you wanted to share with everybody today?
Just basically everything that we have is refillable, and I encourage people to seek out options that are sustainable and just look around. When you go to the grocery store, buy this, not that. You can buy Aspire off of our website, but you should seek a bulk store that's near you if you possibly can. Ask your grocers if they will stock in bulk and stop forcing you to use single-use containers. This, not that. An easy example: when I clean my dishes, you've got to have something to scrub, right? So I use a cloth, which can be washed forever. And then I use a scrubby. It's just those little, textured scrubbies. And I can get those at the grocery store with a little piece of cardboard at the top that binds 3 or 4 of them together. And when I use one, I use it forever because I can keep washing that thing. I can soak it in Clorox if it smells. I can keep washing it. Now, what about a sponge that has a scrubby attached to it that's swathed in plastic? When the sponge goes rotten, how long is that going to take? For one thing, it's going to take less than a week, and you got the smelly sponge, so you throw it away and you get another one out, and you keep doing that because there's no way to clean those things. Why would you not just use a cloth and then get the scrubby without the sponge, and then just have that little pack will last you more than a year?
We're just about out of time, but to your point, I have a mop that has a head that comes off, and it's a little cleaning system where you put the mop in and you can spin it around in this bucket ensemble. I love taking the head off the mop and throwing it in the washing machine and cleaning it.
Yep.
And it comes out
See?
like it's brand blank new. And I actually bought like a 4-pack, so it was on sale, so I could save the others. I don't even touch the others because I keep washing the one I have, and it comes out so fluffy, fresh, and fantastic. Your products are available on your website, and there's so many different ones for personal care, cleaning as well. Let me tell you something. Side note: a friend of mine told me to buy this certain cleaner that you can put, for the floors. All it does is leave a residue. It has this fragrance that is just overpowering. Biggest waste of money in a big container. But I'm just saying, Aspire is the way to go. ASPIRECOLO.com. Do I have that right, Julie?
Yes, you do.
Excellent. Yeah, a lot of great products there. Do your family some justice, keep them healthy, and also take care of our environment. And thank you for all the tips today. A lot of great insight on what we're doing. And I almost feel guilty having this over here, but
no, don't. Just keep using it.
Flatten it out, and it's a better quality aluminum. Some of them are really thin. That's definitely reusable. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it today.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you,
you, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.